The desert wind howled across the empty landscape as Dr. Maya Rodriguez packed up her equipment for the day. She had been working at this remote research station in Nevada for 3 years now, studying rock formations and searching for signs of ancient life. Most days were quiet and predictable, just the way she liked it. But today was different. As Maya loaded her samples into the Jeep, a strange flash caught her eye in the distance. At first, she thought it might be lightning, but the sky was clear. The flash came again, this time followed by a low rumbling sound that seemed to come from underground. Her scientific curiosity got the better of her. Instead of heading back to the main facility, Maya drove toward the source of the strange lights. What she found there would change her life forever. Hidden behind a cluster of large rocks was something that definitely didn't belong in the Nevada desert. It looked like a small vehicle, but unlike anything she had ever seen. The surface was smooth and metallic, with a soft blue glow emanating from cracks along its side. Steam rose from various openings, and the whole thing hummed with an energy that made the hair on her arms stand up. Maya's heart raced. She knew she should call this in immediately. The protocol was clear. Any unusual findings had to be reported to the base commander within the hour. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the scientist in her, or maybe it was just pure human curiosity. But she decided to take a closer look first. The door, if it could be called that, had been damaged. In what was clearly some kind of crash, through the opening, Maya could see inside the strange craft. Her breath caught in her throat when she spotted movement. There, huddled in the corner of what appeared to be the vehicle's interior, was a small figure. At first glance, Maya thought it might be a child, but as she got closer, she realized this was something extraordinary. The little being had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Its eyes were large and dark, filled with what Maya could only describe as intelligence and fear. The creature was hurt. Maya could see that immediately. There were burns on its arms and legs, and it moved with obvious pain. But what struck her most was how young it seemed. Despite being clearly not human, there was something unmistakably childlike about the way it curled up, trying to make itself as small as possible. Maya had always been good with children. She had helped raise her younger brothers after their parents died, and there was something about scared, hurt kids that brought out her protective instincts. This situation was no different, even though the child in question happened to be from another world. She approached slowly, keeping her hands visible and speaking in the soft, gentle tone she had always used with frightened children. The little alien watched her carefully but didn't try to run or hide further. When Maya reached out her hand, palm up and open, the small being hesitated for a long moment. Then, very carefully, it reached out and touched her fingers with its own. The skin was warm and surprisingly soft, not at all what Maya had expected. That touch changed everything for both of them. Maya made a decision that went against everything she had been trained to do. Instead of calling for backup, instead of following protocol, she gently lifted the injured alien child and carried it to her Jeep. She covered it with a blanket and drove back to her private laboratory, the smaller building where she conducted her personal research away from the main facility. Over the next few hours, Maya did her best to treat the child's injuries using her basic first aid knowledge. She discovered that despite the obvious physical differences, the little alien responded to care much like any human child would. It seemed grateful for the gentle treatment and slowly began to relax in Maya's presence. Communication was a challenge. At first, the child made soft musical sounds that Maya couldn't understand, and her English words clearly meant nothing to it. But gradually, they began to develop their own system. Maya would point to objects and say their names. The alien child, who seemed incredibly smart, began to repeat the words back in a musical version of Maya's voice. Maya decided to call her new friend Zara after the Arabic word for flower, because of the way the child's skin seemed to bloom with soft colors when she was happy or excited. Zara took to the name immediately, pointing to herself and repeating it with obvious pleasure. As days turned into weeks, Maya and Zara developed a routine. During the day, when other researchers might visit Maya's lab, Zara would hide in a secret room Maya had created behind a false wall. At night, they would spend hours together, with Maya teaching Zara about Earth and human culture, while Zara shared glimpses of her own world through drawings and the few items that had survived. The crash. Maya learned that Zara was incredibly intelligent. The alien child picked up English with amazing speed, going from single words to simple sentences in just a few weeks. But more than that, Zara seemed to understand human emotions in a way that was almost magical. When Maya was tired after a long day, Zara would somehow know exactly how to comfort her. When Maya was excited about a new discovery, Zara would share in that joy completely. The bond between them grew stronger each day. Maya had never had children of her own, but she imagined this was what it felt like to be a mother. She found herself thinking about Zara constantly when they were apart, worrying about her safety and happiness. At night, when Zara would curl up next to her while Maya read scientific journals, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Zara, for her part, seemed to bloom under Maya's care. The frightened, injured creature Maya had found in them dessert gradually transformed into a curious, playful child who laughed at Maya's jokes and asked endless questions about everything around her. Her injuries healed completely, leaving only faint silver marks that looked almost like decorative patterns on her blue skin. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about Zara was her ability to learn not just language and facts, but values and emotions. Maya taught her about kindness, about helping others, about the importance of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Zara absorbed these lessons like a sponge, often surprising Maya with insights that seemed wise beyond her. A parent years, 3 months passed in this secret bubble of happiness. Maya had never been so content in her life. She had found not just an amazing scientific discovery, but a daughter she never knew she wanted. Every day brought new wonders as Zara's abilities continued to develop and their understanding of each other deepened. Maya began to allow herself to dream about the future. Maybe she could find a way to keep Zara's existence secret permanently. Maybe they could live together quietly, with Maya continuing her research while Zara grew up safely hidden from a world that might not understand her. But deep down, Maya knew that their perfect little world couldn't last forever. The government had ways of finding out about these things, and there were too many people asking questions about the strange energy readings that had been detected in the area around the time of Zara's crash. Still, for those 3 precious months, Maya and Zara had each other. They had created a family built on love, trust, and mutual care. Maya had given Zara the gift of safety and nurturing during her most vulnerable time, while Zara had given Maya purpose and joy she had never experienced before. Neither of them knew that these would be the last peaceful days they would share for a very long time. The outside world was closing in, and soon their secret would be discovered. But for now, in the quiet of the desert laboratory, a human scientist and an alien child continued to build a bond that would prove stronger than time, distance, and even the vast emptiness of space itself. Maya knew something was wrong the moment she saw the black vehicles approaching her research station. She had been expecting this day for weeks now, but that didn't make it any easier. The strange energy readings from Zara's crashed ship had finally caught the attention of people who asked too many questions. She rushed inside to find Zara playing quietly with the small collection of Earth toys Maya had given her over the past few months. The alien child looked up with those big, trusting eyes and smiled. She had learned to read Maya's expressions perfectly, and the worry on her face immediately made Zara's smile fade. "What wrong, Mama Maya?" Zara asked in her musical voice. She had started calling Maya Mama about a month ago, and every time she said it, Maya's heart melted a little more. Maya knelt down and pulled Zara into a tight hug. "Some people are coming here, sweetheart, people who might want to take you away from me." Zara's small hands gripped Maya's shirt tightly. "No, go away. Stay with Mama Maya." "I know, baby, I know. But these people are very powerful, and they don't understand about us. They think you're dangerous." Through the window, Maya could see men in dark suits getting out of their vehicles. They moved with the kind of purpose that made her stomach clench with fear. She had maybe 2 minutes before they reached her door. Quickly, Maya guided Zara to their secret hiding place behind the false wall in her laboratory. It was a small space, but they had made it comfortable with blankets and some of Zara's favorite books. Maya had hoped they would never need to use it for real. You have to be very quiet in here. Okay, no matter what you hear, don't come out until I come get you. Zara's eyes filled with tears. At only 3 months on Earth, she was still learning about human emotions. But she understood fear perfectly. Mama Maya scared? Maya tried to smile, but she could feel her own tears starting. A little bit, yes, but I'm going to protect you. No matter what happens. Do you remember what I taught you about being brave? Being brave is being scared, but doing right thing anyway, Zara recited in her careful English. That's right, my smart girl. Now I need you to be brave for me, okay? Zara nodded solemnly and crawled into the hiding space. Maya sealed the false wall just as someone knocked loudly on her door. Her hands were shaking as she walked to answer it. The man who greeted her was tall and stern-looking, with cold gray eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind him stood 4 other agents, all wearing identical dark suits and serious expressions. Dr. Rodriguez, I'm Agent Thompson with the Department of Special Investigations. We need to talk. Maya's mouth went dry, but she tried to appear calm. Of course. What can I help you with? We've been monitoring some unusual energy signatures in this area. Signatures that match something we've been looking for. Agent Thompson's eyes never left Maya's face. I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm afraid I don't understand, Maya lied, hoping her voice sounded steadier than she felt. Agent Thompson smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Dr. Rodriguez, we know about the crash 3 months ago. We know something survived that crash, and we know you found it. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it. I report all my findings through proper channels. If there had been any kind of crash, I would have. Please don't insult my intelligence, Agent Thompson interrupted. We have satellite footage of you at the crash site. We have energy readings from your laboratory that match the craft's signature. And we have reports from your colleagues about your strange behavior over the past few months. Maya felt her world crumbling around her. She had tried so hard to keep Zara safe, but it hadn't been enough. Even if what you're saying is true, I don't see how. Where is it, Dr. Rodriguez? The question hung in the air like a threat. Maya looked at the agents surrounding her and realized she was completely outnumbered. But she thought about Zara hiding behind the wall, probably terrified and confused. And she found her courage. I don't know what you're talking about. Agent Thompson sighed and nodded to his team. Search the building. Maya watched helplessly as the agents spread throughout her laboratory. Using strange devices that beeped and flashed as they moved, she tried to stay calm. Tried to think of some way to protect Zara. But there was nothing she could do. It took them less than 10 minutes to find the hidden room. The sound of the false wall being torn down was like a physical blow to Maya's chest. She heard Zara cry out in fear, and Maya tried to rush toward the sound. But 2 agents grabbed her arms and held her back when they brought Zara out. The little alien was trembling with terror. Her skin had turned a deep purple color that Maya had never seen before, and her eyes were wide with panic. The moment she saw Maya, she cried out in her musical language, reaching desperately toward her. Mama Maya, help, scared. Maya fought against the agents holding her, tears streaming down her face. Let me go to her. She's just a child. She's frightened. It's not human. Dr. Rodriguez. Agent Thompson said coldly, it's a potential threat to national security. Her name is Zara, and she's not a threat to anyone. Maya shouted. She's sweet and kind and intelligent. She's just a little girl who got lost and hurt. Agent Thompson ignored her protests as he studied Zara with clinical interest. The alien child was crying now, making soft musical sounds that broke Maya's heart. Zara kept reaching for Maya, not understanding why the woman who had protected her for months couldn't help her now. Please. Maya begged, her voice breaking. Please don't take her. She needs me. I'm the only family she has. That's exactly the problem. Agent Thompson replied. You've formed an emotional attachment to an unknown alien entity. You've compromised your scientific objectivity and potentially endangered national security. Two agents moved towards Zara with some kind of restraining device. The moment they touched her, something amazing and terrifying happened. Zara's skin blazed with bright light, and every electronic device in the room suddenly went dark. The lights flickered and died, computers shut down, and even the agent's communication devices stopped working. In the sudden darkness, Maya heard Zara call out to her in English, "Mama Maya, remember Zara. Always remember." Then Maya felt something touch her mind. It was gentle but overwhelming, like a warm wave washing over her consciousness. Suddenly, she could feel everything Zara was feeling. The fear, the love, the desperate desire to not be forgotten. But more than that, she could sense Zara somehow placing something inside her mind. A piece of herself that would always be there. The sensation lasted only seconds before backup power kicked in, and the room was flooded with harsh fluorescent light again. Zara was unconscious in the arms of one of the agents, her skin now a pale, almost translucent blue. "What did you do to her?" Maya screamed, still struggling against the hands holding her back. "Nothing permanent," Agent Thompson said. But Maya could see he was shaken by what had just happened. "The entity will be taken to a secure facility where it can be properly studied. She's not an entity, she's a child. She has feelings and thoughts and dreams. She's part of my family." But Maya's protest fell on deaf ears. She watched in horror as they carried Zara's limp form toward one of their black vehicles. The alien child looked so small and helpless in the agent's arms. Nothing like the bright, curious little girl who had filled Maya's life with joy for the past 3 months. "Dr. Rodriguez," Agent Thompson said as his team prepared to leave, "you will sign a confidentiality agreement and never speak of this incident to anyone. Your security clearance is revoked, and your employment with this facility is terminated. Immediately, any attempt to contact the media or discuss this matter will result in serious legal consequences." Maya barely heard him. All she could focus on was the vehicle driving away with Zara inside. The little alien girl who had called her mama, who had trusted her completely, who had brought more happiness into her life than she had ever thought possible. As the convoy disappeared into the desert distance, Maya sank to her knees in the dirt outside her laboratory. The place that had been their secret haven now felt empty and violated. The toys Zara had played with, the books Maya had read to her, the small bed where the alien child had slept safely, all of it was still there, but it felt hollow without Zara's presence. But even in her grief, Maya could feel something new in her mind, a warmth. A presence that hadn't been there before. Somehow, in those final moments, Zara had given her a gift, a piece of herself that would always remain with Maya, no matter how far apart they were. Maya pressed her hand to her heart and whispered into the empty desert air, "I'll never forget you, sweetheart, never. And someday, somehow, I'll find you again." The wind carried her words away into the vast sky, but Maya hoped that somewhere out there, Zara could hear them and know that she was loved. The years that followed were the darkest period of Zara's life. After being taken from Maya, she was moved from one government facility to another, each one more sterile and cold than the last. Scientists studied her like she was some kind of puzzle to solve, not a living being with feelings and memories. But Zara never forgot what Maya had taught her. Even in the coldest, most frightening moments, she would close her eyes and remember. Maya's voice saying, "Being brave is being scared, but doing the right thing anyway." That memory, along with the special connection Maya had left in her mind, kept her going through the worst times. As Zara grew older, her abilities became stronger and more amazing. She could move objects with her thoughts, understand any language just by hearing it once, and somehow make broken machines work again just by touching them. The scientists were fascinated, but they never saw her as anything more than a test subject. By the time she turned 16 in human years, Zara had had enough. She had been watching and learning for years, understanding how the facility worked, where the security cameras were, and how to disable the electronic locks. One night, When the moon was dark and the guards were sleepy, she put her plan into action. Using her mental powers, Zara shut down every electronic system in the building. Lights went out, doors unlocked, and alarms fell silent. In the confusion that followed, she made her way to the hangar where they kept experimental aircraft. There, sitting like a sleeping giant, was a prototype spacecraft that the government had been testing. Zara placed her hands on the ship's control panel and felt the machine systems respond to her touch. It was like the ship was waking up and recognizing her as its rightful pilot. Within minutes, she had figured out how to fly it, and before anyone could stop her, she was shooting up through Earth's atmosphere and into the vast darkness of space. For the first time in years, Zara felt free. But freedom came with a price. She was now completely alone in the universe, with no idea where to go or what to do next. She flew for weeks, letting the ship's navigation system guide her toward distant star systems, hoping to find something, anything, that might feel like home. What she found instead was heartbreak. In a distant galaxy, Zara discovered others like herself, her own people, the ones she had never known existed. But they were not living in peace and happiness as she had hoped. Instead, they were scattered across different planets, hiding in shadows, treated as slaves by a powerful empire that ruled most of that part of space. The empire was led by beings who looked almost human but were cruel beyond belief. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved entire species, including Zara's people. Her kind, who called themselves the Etherians, were particularly valuable as slaves because of their psychic abilities and their skill with technology. Zara's heart broke when she saw how her people lived. They worked in mines and factories, building weapons and ships for their masters. They were forbidden to use their natural abilities, and anyone caught practicing their psychic powers was punished terribly. Families were separated, children were taken from their parents, and hope seemed to be something that had died long ago. But Zara remembered Maya's lessons about helping others and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. She also remembered that being brave meant doing the right thing even when you were scared. And she was definitely scared. The empire was vast and powerful, while she was just one person. Still, she couldn't just watch her people suffer. Zara started small. She would sneak into slave camps at night and help small groups escape. She taught them how to use their abilities again, how to fight back, and most importantly, how to hope. Word began to spread through the scattered Etherian communities about a mysterious young woman who could do impossible things and who never gave up on anyone. The escaped slaves called her the Light Bringer because wherever she went, she brought hope back to people who had forgotten what it felt like. Zara didn't care about the name, but she did care about the growing number of her people who were willing to stand up and fight for their freedom. As months turned into years, Zara's small rescue missions grew into something bigger. She began organizing the escaped Etherians into groups, teaching them military tactics she had learned by watching human movies and documentaries during her time in captivity. More importantly, she taught them Maya's lessons about working together, taking care of each other, and never giving up on family. The Empire tried to stop her, sending armies of soldiers and powerful war machines to hunt her down. But Zara had advantages they didn't expect. Her human-taught values made her different from other rebel leaders. She refused to hurt innocent people, even if they worked for the Empire. She insisted on rescuing enemy prisoners instead of leaving them behind, and she always shared power with others instead of trying to control everything herself. These strange tactics confused the Empire's leaders, but they made Zara's followers love her even more. Etherians who had never met her were willing to risk everything just because they had heard stories about the young queen who fought like a warrior but ruled like a loving mother. By her 25th birthday, Zara had united most of the scattered Etherian clans under her leadership. They had won dozens of battles against the Empire and freed entire worlds from slavery. But the war was far from over, and Zara knew that the hardest fighting was still ahead. Throughout all of this, Maya's voice in her mind never faded. When Zara had to make difficult decisions about strategy, she would remember Maya's gentle wisdom. when she felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of leading millions of people. She would think about how Maya had cared for just one scared alien child with such perfect love, and when she felt tempted to become as cruel as her enemies. Maya's teachings about kindness and compassion pulled her back from the darkness. The final battle came when Zara was 30 years old. The Empire had gathered its entire fleet to destroy the Etherian homeworld that Zara's people had finally reclaimed. It should have been impossible for the rebels to win. They were outnumbered 10 to 1, and the Empire's weapons were more powerful than anything the Etherians had. But Zara had learned something that the Empire's leaders never understood. She had learned that people who fight for love and family are always stronger than people who fight for power and control. When the battle began, every single Etherian fought not just for victory, but for the chance to protect their children and build a better future. The battle lasted 3 days and 3 nights. Ships exploded like stars, and the space around the homeworld was filled with fire and chaos. But when the smoke finally cleared, it was Zara's flag that flew victorious. The Empire's fleet was destroyed, their emperor was captured, and for the first time in generations, the Etherians were truly free. The surviving Etherian leaders wanted to crown Zara as their empress, but she chose a different title. She became their queen, a leader who ruled not through fear, but through love and wisdom. Under her leadership, the Etherians built a new kind of civilization, one based on the values Maya had taught her as a child. Queen Zara's empire became known throughout the galaxy as a place where refugees were welcome, where former enemies could find forgiveness, and where children grew up learning that the most important power was the power to help others. She ruled fairly and justly, always remembering that her greatest teacher had been a human scientist who had risked everything to show kindness to one scared alien child. But even though she was now one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, Queen Zara never forgot about Earth. She never forgot about Maya, and deep in her heart, she always wondered if the woman who had saved her was still alive, still thinking about the little blue-skinned girl she had once called daughter. Every night before she slept, Queen Zara would touch the special place in her mind where Maya's memory lived, and she would whisper the same words she had learned as a child. "Thank you, Mama Maya. I'm still being brave, just like you taught me." She had become a queen, a liberator, and a hero to millions. But the most important thing she had ever been was Maya's daughter, and she carried that love with her across the stars. Queen Zara stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the stars that had become her home. 30 years had passed since that terrible day when she was torn away from Maya, and she now ruled over millions of beings across dozens of worlds. She had everything a queen could want: power, respect, and the love of her people. But there was still an empty space in her heart that nothing could fill. Every night, she would touch the special place in her mind where Maya's memory lived, hearing that gentle voice that had taught her about love and courage. "Mama Maya," she would whisper to the darkness, "I hope you're proud of who I became." But lately, something had been troubling Queen Zara. Her scouts had been bringing disturbing reports about Earth, the small blue planet where she had spent the happiest months of her life. The humans were in trouble. Their world was getting hotter. Their governments were fighting each other, and their technology wasn't advancing fast enough to solve their problems for most alien leaders. This would have been just another distant problem to ignore. But Zara remembered Maya's lessons about helping others, especially those who couldn't help themselves. Earth had given her the greatest gift imaginable, a mother's love, and now it was time to repay that debt. "Prepare a reconnaissance mission to Earth," she told her advisors. "I want to know everything about the current situation there." Her closest friend and advisor, Commander Kira, looked concerned. "My queen, is it wise to get involved with your homeworld? You've built something beautiful here. Why risk it for a planet that treated you so badly?" Zara smiled sadly. "Because one person on that planet showed me what love really means, and because of her, I learned that we have a duty to protect those who are suffering." The reconnaissance mission took several weeks to prepare. Zara wanted detailed information about everything: the climate situation, political tensions, technological capabilities, and most importantly, any information about a certain scientist, named Dr. Maya Rodriguez, when her scouts returned. They brought news that made Zara's heart race with both joy and pain. Maya was still alive, now 67 years old. But her life had taken a very different path than Zara had imagined. After losing her job and security clearance, Maya had been unable to work for any government agency again. Instead, she had become a civilian researcher, using her life savings to build a small observatory in the mountains of Oregon. For 30 years, she had been scanning the skies, developing communication systems, and sending messages into space. The scouts had intercepted some of these messages, and when they played them for Queen Zara, she had to sit down to keep from falling over. Maya's voice, older now but still warm and loving, was calling out to the stars every single night. "This is Dr. Maya Rodriguez on Earth," the recording said. "If anyone out there knows a young Etherean girl named Zara, please tell her that her Mama Maya is still here. Tell her I never stopped looking for her. Tell her I love her, and I'm proud of whatever amazing things she's accomplished." Queen Zara cried when she heard those words. For 30 years, while she had been building an empire and fighting wars, Maya had been alone in the mountains, faithfully sending messages into the void, hoping against hope that somehow they would reach her lost daughter. The scouts also brought other heartbreaking news. Maya had never married or had children of her own. She lived alone in a simple cabin, surrounded by communication equipment and telescopes. Her neighbors thought she was a bit crazy, the lonely old woman who talked to the stars every night. But Maya didn't care what anyone thought. She had made a promise to herself to never give up on Zara, and she had kept that promise for 3 decades. When Queen Zara learned about Maya's lonely vigil, she felt a pain deeper than any weapon could cause. All these years, she had imagined Maya living a happy life, maybe with a family of her own, occasionally thinking fondly of the alien child she had once helped. She had never imagined that Maya had sacrificed everything, career, family, normal life, to keep searching for her. "She gave up everything for me," Queen Zara whispered to Commander Kira. "While I was becoming powerful and famous, she was alone, waiting, hoping. How could I have been so selfish?" "You weren't selfish, my queen," Kira replied gently. "You were taken from her against your will. You couldn't have known." But Queen Zara felt the weight of 30 years of separation crushing down on her. Maya had spent half her adult life searching for a child who had become too busy ruling an empire to come home. The more Queen Zara learned about Earth's problems, the more she realized that this was her chance to finally repay Maya's love. Earth needed help with climate change, with clean energy, with medical technology. These were all problems that Zara's advanced civilization had solved long ago. She could help save the entire planet, and in doing so, she could give Maya the gift of seeing her world healed. But first, she needed to go to Maya personally. No grand announcements, no official diplomatic missions, just a daughter coming home to her mother. "I'm going to Earth," Queen Zara announced to her royal council. Alone, the council erupted in protests. It was too dangerous, they said. What if the humans captured her again? What if they tried to hurt her? What if other alien civilizations took advantage of her absence? Queen Zara listened patiently, then spoke in the quiet voice that her people had learned meant her mind was made up. "I became your queen because one human woman taught me that love is stronger than fear. She showed me that sometimes the most important thing you can do is protect someone who can't protect themselves. For 30 years, Maya has been protecting my memory, keeping my story alive, hoping for my return. Now it's my turn to protect her." The preparation for the journey took months. Queen Zara couldn't just show up on Earth with a massive alien fleet that would cause panic and possibly start a war. Instead, she prepared a small, nearly invisible ship that could land without being detected by human technology. She also had to prepare herself emotionally. For 3 decades, she had been Queen Zara, the powerful ruler who made decisions that affected millions of lives. But when she saw Maya again, she would just be little Zara, the frightened alien child who had Call the human scientist Mama. The night before she left, Queen Zara stood in her private chambers, looking at a small collection of items she had kept from her time on Earth. There was a drawing Maya had made of the two of them together, a small toy that Maya had given her, and a pressed flower from the dessert near the research station. These simple things were more precious to her than all the crowns and jewels in her treasury. "Are you ready for this?" Commander Kira asked, finding her there. Queen Zara touched the memory of Maya in her mind, feeling that familiar warmth that had sustained her through the darkest times. "I've been ready for 30 years, she said. "I just didn't know it until now." As her ship prepared to leave for Earth, Queen Zara thought about the woman who was waiting in a cabin in Oregon, still sending messages to the stars every night. Maya had no idea that her daughter had become a queen, that she ruled an empire built on the values of love and compassion that Maya had taught her so long ago. Soon, very soon, Queen Zara would be able to tell Maya something she had wanted to say for 30 years. "Thank you, Mama. Thank you for showing me what it means to love someone completely. Thank you for never giving up on me. And thank you for teaching me how to be someone worth becoming." The journey to Earth would take several days, and every moment brought Queen Zara closer to the reunion she had dreamed about for half her life. She was going home at last, back to the only place in the universe where she had ever truly belonged, in the arms of the woman who had chosen to love her when she was just a scared, lost child from the stars. Maya had been waiting faithfully. For 30 years, Queen Zara wasn't going to make her wait even one more day. The small cabin nestled in the Oregon mountains looked exactly like it did in the surveillance photos, but seeing it with her own eyes made Queen Zara's heart pound with emotions she hadn't felt in 30 years. Through the windows, she could see the glow of computer screens and the blinking lights of communication equipment. Maya was still there, still sending her nightly messages to the stars, still hoping. Zara's invisible ship touched down silently in the clearing behind the cabin, hidden by the tall pine trees. For a moment, she just sat in the pilot's seat, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She was Queen Zara, ruler of millions, commander of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. But right now, she felt like that scared little alien child again, trembling with hope and fear. Her hand shook as she removed the royal crown from her head and set it aside. Tonight, she wasn't a queen. She was just Zara, coming home to the only mother she had ever known. The evening air was cool and filled with the scent of pine trees as she stepped out of her ship. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted softly, and she could hear the gentle sound of wind moving through the branches. It was so peaceful here, so different from the busy command centers and royal palaces she was used to. As she walked toward the cabin, Zara could hear a familiar voice drifting through the open window. Her steps faltered as Maya's voice, older, now but still warm and loving, spoke into her radio equipment. "This is Dr. Maya Rodriguez on Earth, broadcasting on all frequencies. If anyone out there knows a young Etherean girl named Zara, please tell her that her mama Maya is still here. It's been 30 years since we were separated, but I never stopped believing she's alive somewhere among the stars. Tell her I love her more than all the galaxies combined, and I'm so proud of whatever wonderful person she's become." Tears blurred Zara's vision as she listened to those precious words. For 30 years, Maya had been sending this same message every single night, keeping faith alive when anyone else would have given up hope long ago. Zara approached the front door on trembling legs. Through the window, she could see Maya sitting at her communication console, her hair now silver white, her face lined with years of patient waiting. She was older, yes, but her eyes still held the same kindness that Zara remembered from her childhood. Taking a deep breath, Zara knocked gently on the door. Inside, she heard Maya's chair scrape against the floor, and then footsteps approaching. The door opened, and for the first time in 30 years, Zara looked into the face of the woman who had saved her life. Maya squinted in the porch light, seeing a tall figure with blue skin and large, dark eyes. For a moment, she just stared, her scientific mind trying to process what she was seeing. The visitor looked familiar somehow, but that was impossible, wasn't it? "Can I help you?" Maya asked cautiously, though something deep in her heart was beginning to stir. Zara's voice caught in her throat. Maya looked so much older, so fragile compared to the strong woman who had once carried a frightened alien child to safety. But her eyes were exactly the same, kind, intelligent, and full of love. "Hello, Mama Maya," Zara said softly, using the same broken English pronunciation she had learned as a child. Zara home now." The words hit Maya like lightning. Her hand flew to her mouth, and her eyes went wide with shock. She looked at this tall, regal figure standing on her porch, and suddenly she could see past the years, past the grown-up features, past everything that had changed. Those eyes, that voice, that gentle way of tilting her head, it was impossible, but it was real. "Zara," Maya whispered, her voice breaking. "My little Zara, is it really you?" Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Mama, it's me. I came back, just like I promised I would." Maya's legs almost gave out from under her. She reached out with trembling hands to touch Zara's face, as if she needed to make sure this wasn't just another dream. When her fingers made contact with Zara's warm skin, 30 years of grief and longing came pouring out all at once. "Oh, my baby, my sweet baby girl." Maya sobbed, pulling Zara into the tightest hug she could manage. "I knew you were alive. I knew it. I never stopped looking for you." Zara melted into her mother's embrace, feeling like that lost child again, finally safe in the arms of the person who loved her most. "I'm sorry, Mama Maya. I'm so sorry it took me so long to come home." "Don't you dare apologize," Maya said fiercely, holding Zara even tighter. "You're here now. That's all that matters. You're home." They stood there in the doorway, crying and holding each other, making up for 30 years of separation in a single perfect moment. Zara could feel Maya's small frame shaking with emotion, and she was amazed by how fragile her mother seemed now. This woman had once seemed so strong and capable, but time had taken its toll. "Look at you," Maya said, pulling back to study Zara's face. "You're so tall and beautiful. And those markings on your skin, they're like silver jewelry. You've grown into such an amazing woman." Zara smiled through her tears. "You taught me how to be strong, Mama. Everything good about me, I learned from you." Maya's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Tell me everything. Where have you been? What happened to you after they took you away? Are you safe? Are you happy?" Zara took Maya's hands in her own, feeling how soft and small they were. "It's a long story, Mama. Can we sit down? I have so much to tell you." They went inside the small cabin, and Zara looked around at the place Maya had called home for so many years. Every surface was covered with communication equipment, star charts, and notebooks filled with calculations. On the walls were photos of the night sky and drawings, including the picture Maya had made of the two of them together. "All those years ago, you kept it," Zara said, touching the drawing gently. "I kept everything." Maya replied, "Your toys, your blankets, even the little cup you used to drink water from. I couldn't bear to throw anything away." They sat together on Maya's old couch, and slowly, carefully, Zara began to tell her story. She talked about the years of captivity, her escape to space, finding her people, and the long war that had made her a queen. Maya listened with wide eyes, holding Zara's hand tightly, as if she was afraid her daughter might disappear again. "A queen?" Maya said in amazement. "My little Zara became a queen only because of what you taught me," Zara replied. "Every decision I made, every battle I fought, I asked myself what Mama Maya would do. You taught me that true strength comes from love, not fear. That's how I learned to lead." Maya shook her head in wonder. "I always knew you were special, but you saved entire worlds, helped millions of people. I'm so incredibly proud of you." "And I'm proud of you too, Mama," Zara said, squeezing Maya's hand. "I heard your messages. Every night for 30 years, you never gave up on me. Do you know how that kept me going through the hardest times? Knowing that somewhere in the universe, my mother was still calling me home." They talked until the sun began to rise, sharing 30 years of stories, memories, and dreams. Maya told Zara about her lonely years of searching, about the people who thought she was crazy for believing in aliens, about the nights when she almost gave up hope but then remembered Zara's sweet face and found the strength to keep going. Zara told Maya about the empire she had built, about the values of love and compassion that guided her rule, about how she had carried Maya's lessons across the galaxy and used them to heal entire civilizations. As the morning light streamed through the cabin windows, Zara made a decision that surprised even herself. She knelt down in front of Maya's chair, no longer the powerful queen, but simply a daughter honoring her mother. "Mama Maya," she said formally, "I want to ask you something important. I know I'm a queen now, and I have responsibilities to my people, but would you consider coming with me? I can give you anything you want, a beautiful palace, amazing technology, the chance to see wonders beyond imagination. But mostly, I just want us to be a family again." Maya's eyes filled with tears as she reached down to touch Zara's face. "Oh, sweetheart, that's the most beautiful offer anyone has ever made me. But this is my home. This is where I waited for you, where I talked to you every night. I'm too old to travel to other galaxies." Zara nodded, understanding completely. "Then I'll stay here. I can set up an embassy on Earth, help your people with their problems. We never have to be separated again. You would do that? Give up your throne to stay with me?" "Mama," Zara said with a smile, 30 years ago, you gave up everything to protect one scared alien child. The least I can do is give up a crown to take care of the most important person in my universe." Maya pulled Zara up from the floor and hugged her tightly. "We'll figure it out together, baby girl. Just like we always did. The important thing is that you're home, and this time, nobody is ever going to take you away from me again." As they held each other in the morning light, both women knew that their greatest adventure was just beginning. Queen Zara had conquered galaxies, but coming home to Maya was the greatest victory of all.